Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about there've recently been some arrests of Antifa thugs and goons in the United States, and it fortunately was captured on camera, so we've got footage of it. But this is a fairly rare occurrence. If the Antifa people who can be extremely violent, burning buildings down, slapping people around, and generally being disruptive and behaving illegally, blocking roads and so on. They rarely get arrested. The police seem quite content, and I'm sure they're ordered to do this, to stand by and just let the Antifa people get on with it. But if you want to complain about abortion, or you misgender somebody, or you're a concerned parent at a school board pointing out that you don't want graphic pornography pushed on your 5-year-old, then the police are suddenly called and you are arrested, and you are treated as a terrorist and a criminal by the US Justice Department. But if you're an Antifa goon burning down a building or assaulting people, hey, that's okay, because you're supporting the right cause, the right ideological cause. Now, so Antifa or climate change people getting arrested is fairly rare. Because it's so rare that they get arrested and they get let out, and prosecutors don't prosecute, or if they do, then judges let them go. They're emboldened by this because they consider it effectively open season permission to go and behave as they do. Also, they have quite a lot of money at their disposal, various resources, in order to mobilize them and get them onto the street. Now, if you look at those Kevlar jackets and helmets and the kit they're kitted out with, and the goggles and so on, this is not a cost that you can meet, or easily meet. So when you find out that these things are all provided and that there's central organization, that, hey, there's going to be a demonstration against drag queens for 5-year-old children in the local library, is going to be a protest there. So we want you to go out and do a counter protest, and they'll all be bussed in. They'll be given their kit, given their all the equipment they need to be, including full face covering, all the equipment they need to go and sort of do this not so much a counter protest. They're not there to counter protest, to state their point of view. They're to fully and absolutely disrupt and prevent the other people protesting. So we need to sort of understand that. But because it's so rare and so unlikely that they'll suffer penalty, they're emboldened by this, and they go to unusual lengths, I think. You're clearly engaging in law breaking, and believe they have some sort of moral superiority that allows them to do it. And I'm sure they're encouraged to think that by their globalist handlers and those that fund them. But just on that point, a friend of ours' daughter who's got a thing about various farming practices, she got caught up in some radical gender studies lesbian group, and so they go out to farms to stop I don't know, hens laying eggs or something like that. Now, and they just go onto the farms, sort of en masse, 20, 30, 40 of them, and try and disrupt all the farming activities. Some of these farms, there's quite a big business, but so anyway, they went out to. She'd done a few of these, but it always been let off. There was no arrests, or the police just told them to move on, threatened them, if you don't move on, you'll be arrested, even though they had brazenly broken the law. The police were very reluctant to arrest and clearly didn't want to do it. I'm sure again they were told to do this. Again, unlike people that are protesting outside an abortion clinic, they're quickly arrested. No question about that. So it goes to show you that it's a purely ideological play. The issue of law breaking is irrelevant. It's the ideology that matters, which should be deeply concerning to all of us, that's even happening. But on the third or fourth occasion that the girl goes to do this, and she was, 20 years old or something, the police came in and to move along. When they didn't, they got very roughly handled, thrown to the ground, arms twisted up behind back, handcuffs put on very tightly. They got some rough treatment. Now suddenly she's so brave and ideological, she's fighting back against the man. But as soon as she gets a bit of rough treatment, she's bawling her eyes out, acting like a little girl. Oh, mummy, come and save me, and daddy, stop these bad men from doing this thing. That. So suddenly she's this, she's a real ideological warrior, big strong woman. And then the next minute she's just a little crying little girl begging for, oh, don't hurt me. So suddenly she's decided to stop. So got arrested and got quite a small fine in the overall scheme of things, and a small good behaviour bond and that sort of thing. So it's really not the end of the universe. But as soon as she's accountable, suddenly she doesn't want to do it anymore. And so the issue is these Antifa goons, climate change activists, the whole thing, because they're so rarely held accountable or given a slap on the wrist at worst, that they're emboldened to just go out and do it again. Particularly if they're sort of trust fund babies, they don't need to work and they're living at their parents' place and this sort of thing. They can afford to be irresponsible and careless because there are no penalties for them, and their mere existence day to day. The house, the accommodation, the food, everything is provided by someone else. So they don't have to take responsibility for anything. If they had to do a full-time job, they couldn't do it. Now, this comes back, I'd always assumed, well, not assumed, that Antifa would be quite a spread of people. There'd be primarily, black activists would be in Antifa, I thought, given they were so, their faces were so covered up. And so I just presumed that would be, I knew there'd be some white people there, and some had been sort of exposed before, but I didn't think it was a white person's gig. Anyway, I'm looking at one video where the group, there's the protest. There wasn't many people protesting. In fact, it was a small protest against, I think, drag queen stuff for minors. And the complaint was not just that it was drag queens for minors, but it was being done on government property and is being done for free. So people could, without cost, come along, bring their children. I think it was using a public library maybe, or another public building. So the government effectively was funding the entire drag queen exercise. Whereas if these drag queen people had to hire their own hall and hire their own staff and put all the tables and chairs in themselves, they would have to charge $50 a head, and so nobody would come. So the complaint that the protesters were doing is it shouldn't be government funded, and it should be fully declared. They've got a problem with 5-year-olds being subject to it, but the main problem they've got is that the drag queen shouldn't show explicitly lots of flesh and that sort of stuff, and they shouldn't be able to do it on government property at government expense or taxpayer expense. And I'm quite okay with that. I think that's fair enough. So they were protesting, and there wasn't that many of the protesters, and they had their handmade signs, and I wouldn't, they certainly weren't a very organised group. But then the Antifa people arrived en masse, all of them, probably twice as many as the protesters. Clearly this has been organised. The Antifa group had been mobilised. They had all their kit and their equipment there, and they began to assault some of the protesters who were against the drag queen stuff, and then they were arrested. And the police came and they tried to run away, but the police pursued and got them. And what got me was the suddenly they're it's the law. But before that, who gives a fuck about the law? We're morally superior and we can assault you. We can do whatever we want. You can shove the law up your ass. But as soon as the police want to come and arrest them for assault, suddenly, that's the law. You can't touch me that way. It's the law. And they're all very particular about the law, the letter of the law and all this sort of thing. So anyway, the police get them, and the they struggle and scream and shout and holler and carry on as if, why are you holding me accountable? So what if I broke the law? Why should I be accountable for that? I'm doing good work because I'm fighting Nazis. I'm fighting Hitler. Those women who don't like their children being exposed to drag queens showing lots of flesh, showing their ass. I mean, those women those women worried about their children, 5-year-old children again, they're Hitler. So anyway, they get arrested, and there was another group arrested under similar circumstances. What shocked me was they were all white, all of them. And that sort of took me by surprise. They're between the ages of sort of 20 and 40. All of them white. Some of them look quite clean cut. There's a couple of guys sort of mid-30s, looking quite respectable and clean cut and not looking. I mean, you wouldn't dream that somebody like that would be an Antifa thug or goon. Wearing those full face coverings and the body armor and going around assaulting people because they don't want their 5-year-old kids being subject to drag queens waggling their ass in their face. I mean, well, why would somebody even want to do it? So we need to understand the mobilization and the infrastructure and the organizational structure of Antifa. Those people were specifically mobilized. They were specifically equipped, specifically kitted out, and they were transported there to do a specific job, which was to disrupt the protest, to make it so hard and so difficult and to intimidate, physically assault if necessary, those protesters, to move them off. So there would be no protest. And to show these people, if you dare protest drag queens, a goon squad will come along and will slap you around until you leave. And we'll do so with impunity. We are 99% confident the police will do nothing. We're so confident, we believe the police will stand by and watch as we slap you around. That's the sort of level of confidence we have. I mean, wow, is there any other group in society or in the United States in this case that could be so confident that they can brazenly break the law, multiple laws, and be absolutely unaccountable for it? It's not, I can't imagine many people would think that way or be that confident. Now, they're confident because clearly they've been told this. Ideologically, you're okay. You're on good ground, you guys. But also they've experienced it. We've done it before. We didn't get arrested. Why can't we do it again? Gee whiz, we're rather enjoying this breaking the law stuff. I mean, it's insane to even consider it. But it shows that the law's hardly being evenly applied here. So, but again, coming back to the white people, so there's some young guys in their early 20s, not necessarily clean cut in that case, but they don't look like the sort of feral street creatures you would expect to be doing this. They appear to be ideologically brainwashed. They don't have much to do, I guess, but ideologically brainwashed. They're not street bums or something like that. They clearly got access to, all sorts of facilities. They're not again bums off the street or murderous hoodlums from the hood or something like that. They're not that sort of. They look, respectful is maybe too strong a term, but some of them do look respectful. But others they look like kind of ordinary young people just without a purpose in life. Maybe that would be the extent of it. They don't look like killers or goons. The way they go about assaulting people shows they're not experienced. They're not experienced at assaulting people. They're not naturally maliciously aggressive people. They've been trained to believe that ideologically they are a superior, but the other people are evil fascist Nazis, if not Hitler personally. And therefore anything you do to them is acceptable. You can do that to Nazis. You're allowed to do that to Nazis. How do you know the Nazis? Well, they told me at school that these people, they told me at college, or our globalist handler told us that they were Nazis and we've got to stop Nazis. Who's got a problem with fighting Nazis? And so they have this thing where they give themselves permission to behave with great brutality against their fellow citizens on the basis that ideologically the other people are kind of bad or they're Nazis. I mean, it's insane that it's even got this far. So these are the people, including a number of women. The women tend to be or the ones arrested anyway, tend to be sort of, say, mid to late 30s, rather lesbian looking, I think, but not necessarily. Green hair, multiple. The women are more feral. They multiple nose piercings and all sorts of things like that, but all of them have this view that I'm allowed to do this. Well, why am I not allowed to do it? They're Nazis. Of course I can do this. But there's no such thing as breaking the law. No such thing as breaking the law when you're fighting Nazis. And this mindset, I think, is creeping into so many areas of not only Antifa and that sort of thing, climate change, but really any act that, be it climate change, be it condemning white supremacy or pro mass migration, anything that involves the destabilization and undermining of Western society is considered to be a good. Anyone that opposes that good must therefore be Hitler. And so we're allowed to do what we want to Hitler because Hitler's so bad. So we're doing a good thing by doing a bad thing. And that mentality, it's and they seem to struggle to just watching them. They seem to struggle. But why are you arresting us? You've got no right to arrest us. You're not legitimate. You police are simply not legitimate. We are the ones that decide what happens on the street, and don't you get in our way. And that's quite a chilling attitude to have. You've been with us today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.